You're clean, aren't you? Except for your tower. You're a tower junkie, Roland.
Hello and welcome to Tower Junkies, presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. Tower Junkies is a podcast celebrating the work of Stephen King with a special focus on his magnum opus, the Dark Tower series. We discuss the themes, characters, and mythology of the series in Palaver episodes, and review the books and comic series in Kef episodes. We also discuss non-Tower King novels, TV and film adaptations of King's work, and the latest news about all things that serve the King. You can find more of our work at TowerJunkiesPod.com and follow us on every level of social media at Tower Junkies Pod. I am, of course, one of your hosts, Matt Hurt, and with me today, as usual, is Tiny.
Hey, guys.
Hi, Tiny. How's it going?
It's good. It's good.
Good. We just recorded a special Patreon exclusive thing, which you can find at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. You get access to, if you pledge $1, you get access to an RSS feed that's just full with just bullshit recordings. And if you pledge $5 or more, you get access to videos of us talking about movies we see and stuff. So, on that note, Tiny, how do you feel about Patreon and stuff? How do you feel about what we just went through?
Ecstatic.
Yes. Well, that's very nice of you. I was very laid back recording this time. But I do have a couple of, let's just dive right into it. So let me introduce what we're actually doing this episode. We are going to be reviewing both the novella In the Tall Grass by Stephen King and Joe Hill, and the movie adaptation written and directed by Vincenzo Natali, on Netflix, In the Tall Grass, which came out last week, on Netflix. So, we're kind of like the Tommy Knockers episode we did. We're doubling up. I chose to do that mostly because, I mean, it's a novella, so it's a fairly short read.
Yeah.
And also, it'll be fun to kind of deconstruct, like, the differences and stuff. So, we're gonna do that, but before we do that, we have a couple of news items and some check-ins, perhaps. Mm-hmm. Let's start with the news. Ordinarily, I would piece together a bunch of news items and then we would kind of go through it, but kind of flying by the seat of my pants. The big news that happened. So first of all, let's quiet down the big news. A couple of little promotional stuff that happened. Today they released or showed the two new posters for Dr. Sleep the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and man, do they look good.
Mm-hmm. There
is one that's just all red, and it shows adult Dan, like, in front of the elevators of the Overlook with small Danny on the big wheel.
The big wheel, yeah.
Yeah. And it's so great. And it says something like, dare to come back or something like that.
And it has like a very like vintage 70s kind of feel to it, which is super cool.
Oh, yeah. It's just, God, it looks so good. And then did you see the international poster?
I don't know if I saw that one.
Oh, it's sweet. Let me bring it up here real quick. Okay. So, God, this is a new background I'm going to make. So here's the red one.
Oh, that's cool.
It looks so cool. And I love how prominent it is. That says Stephen King's Dr. Sleep. I love that.
Yeah. And
then the international one is so cool.
Oh, nice.
It's yellow. It's got Dan through the doorway that Jack busted down with the axe. Just so good. And the tagline is "Dare to go back." But I think I'm going to make the red one my phone background.
Cool.
Yeah. And speaking of phone backgrounds, do you want to know what it's replacing on my phone background?
Sure.
It is replacing the cover art for the new Stephen King book that's coming out in May, If It Bleeds.
Oh, yeah.
So did you, I sent this to you. Did you read up on it or look through it or anything?
I did. I saw like the little summary / excerpt of what it's about. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So.
Yep. It is a collection of 4 novellas.
Mm-hmm.
There are 4 stories on it. I can't remember the titles. We'll find out closer to May, or it's the information's out there. But
yeah,
one of them is the titular "If It Bleeds," which is a Holly Gibney story,
right?
Which I'm really excited that this is going to be a collection, because we made we commented on it when the news kind of first broke back in like May. Back in like May, when he just said like his next book is called If It Bleeds, because he had said that he's going to be writing Holly Gibney stories for the foreseeable future.
Okay.
And I kept thinking like, and we talked about this in maybe the Pet Sematary review, I don't know, but we talked about how we weren't that interested in Holly Gibney as a main character. And like, I was kind of, maybe I didn't vocalize it this way, but like, I was kind of disappointed that the next Stephen King book was going to be a Holly Gibney story.
Mm-hmm.
But this is great because it's 4 stories. Presumably only the one is a Holly Gibney story.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to it because I've thought about this before, that he hasn't had a collection of short stories or a collection of novellas or anything since The Bazaar of Bad Dreams, which I think was in like 2012.
Okay.
So it's been a very long time for him. So I'm looking forward to that. I've already got it pre-ordered on Amazon.
Nice.
It comes out. It is going to release on May 5th, 2020, and I love the cover art of it. Did you see that?
Oh yeah, it's a kitty.
Yep, it's a kitty, and if you look in the nose it's a rat.
Okay,
I think, or a mouse.
Yeah.
Just looks very like the color of the background. It's like kind of this kind of light brown.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say? Yeah.
Tan orangish.
Orangish. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's exciting, and there is an excerpt from it, which is pretty exciting. Like the excerpt is actually pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was encouraging.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because it seems like it's not going to be like a straight up, we follow Holly Gibney for the story. It seems like she's kind of reaching out to another detective.
Right. From
The Outsider.
The Outsider, yeah.
Right.
Which I'd forgotten that he was a character in The Outsider. I need to read The Outsider again. The other stories, so it's If It Bleeds, and then the other stories are... why does it not say? I'm sorry.
Did they did announce what the other stories are, though?
They did, yes. So It is If It Bleeds, Rat, The Life of Chuck, and Mr. Harrigan's Phone. So that's exciting. I'm excited, and it's cool because his son Joe Hill just released. I haven't listened to it yet, but he just released Full Throttle, which is his collection of short stories, in which In the Tall Grass appears.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
Nice.
Yep. So that. The big news. Crap. We haven't talked about this at all. Casting for The Stand. Production starting for The Stand.
Yes.
Yes. So big news. First of all, I would just want to say, there was this pretty cool thing that Josh Boone posted on, or Mick Garris posted it. It was Mick Garris and Josh Boone on the set of Josh Boone's The Stand. And it's just cool because like Mick Garris made the TV miniseries.
Right.
Pretty exciting.
Nice. Yeah.
But we've already we talked about Alexander Skarsgård, didn't we?
I think we did. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Well,
yeah, I'm encouraged by that casting.
Oh, me too.
Casting choice. Yeah.
He's gonna be a great Randall Flagg.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is I recently re-listened to some older episodes because I'm a narcissist, but the other casting news is that Nat Wolff is playing Harold. No, not Harold, but Lloyd Henreid, the guy, like one of Flagg's kind of disciples that he meets in the prison. And this is exciting for a couple of reasons. One, I love Nat Wolff. He's a great young actor. And then also, like he was my pick for years ago to be Nick Andros.
Great. Yeah, he'd be perfect for that.
He would be. And I mean, granted, they've got Oh crap! Oh, this guy that was in like a couple episodes of 13 Reasons Why, which I'm sure he's going to do fine. But yeah, I'm just excited that Nat Wolff is going to be in this because I think he's great and he has a good working history with Josh Boone.
Nice.
So yeah, how are you feeling about The Stand? How much are you looking forward to it? Are you looking forward to all of the podcast stuff we're going to have to do for us?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I still just have tiniest bit of hesitation because it's CBS.
Yeah.
Which I think I mentioned in a past episode.
Yeah. I've got the Matsiest bit of hesitation.
Okay.
Because you said the tiniest.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
I did. You're hilarious.
Thank you. Yeah, I get that. Have you looked into like doing like Amazon for CBS All Access or anything?
No, I probably should once that comes around. But it's not even just the fact that I wasn't thrilled with that service. It's just the fact that it's network. And The Stand would be so great on HBO or Showtime or Netflix or Hulu.
Yeah, but they are allowed to have that much. Like Josh Boone said, it's going to be like HBO level.
Yeah,
maybe
right.
not in terms of money, but
I'm sure it is. But it's still like HBO is practiced in their quality, and CBS All Access isn't.
It's still kind of untested.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I can pick up what you're putting down.
So, but I hope I'm wrong. Like I said, I think I said that as well. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's great and they knock it out of the park. And that's the fact that it's on CBS is one part of the equation.
Yeah.
And pretty much every other part of the equation I'm a huge fan of and I'm really enthusiastic for. If it were on Netflix or HBO, I'd be looking shit up on it every day and like super excited.
Nice.
'Cause all the casting and the creative side are just almost perfect.
Yep,
really.
Totally.
So,
kind of on a similar note, should we go ahead and do Stephen King check-ins?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. I've got a few, but brief ones. Kind of leapfrogging off of our conversation just now about The Stand. Creepshow. It has been revived by Shudder, and it is currently in the midst of its first season on Shudder. Executive produced, show ran, all that by Greg Nicotero, and it is adapting one story from it's 6 episodes. Each episode has 2 stories to it. Of those 12 total stories, one, I believe, is a Joe Hill story, and another is a Stephen King story. Now, the Stephen King story was the first story in the first episode of the series, and that's the only one that I've watched so far. It is adapted from his night shift short story, Gray Matter. And I'll go ahead and go into my check-in. I have it on Shudder. I've subscribed to Shudder through Amazon Prime. This first segment is so good. Like it's exactly what I wanted out of it. It's gross, but it's also just that like tension building. Tobin Bell, isn't it?
Jigsaw?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's so good. And there are a few like really cool Stephen King Easter eggs.
Nice.
Like the one that I'll let kind of slip here is the story is about these guys, like a sheriff and kind of a drinking buddy and whatever, during a winter. No, I think I'm maybe confusing it with something else. But during like a storm, who they're in a convenience store that's owned by the guy, I think. But anyway, this kid comes in, says like, I'm here to pick up a case of beer for my dad, and it's basically we learn that something is off with the dad, and the sheriff and the guy go to investigate. I'll leave it at that. But one of the cool Stephen King references is that when the kid shows up and they open the door for him, it's like raining and everything. It's storming. Like they open the door and he's just wearing like a yellow rain slicker, and rain hat, just like Georgie.
Yeah.
It's just like the little touches like that were just really good.
Nice.
But yeah, and I really liked that segment. It was one of my, because I recently read Night Shift, and it was one of kind of the middle of the road short stories for me of that collection.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really good in its adaptation. So
sweet.
Yeah. So are you going to watch Creepshow at all? I know you talked about privately to me about joining Shudder possibly.
Well, are they releasing a new episode every week basically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the final episode's going to be like Halloween.
And then it'll be like available.
Yes.
Okay, for a while. I'll probably wait till it's all out, frankly, and then just maybe in November I'll get the subscription for a month and watch them.
I don't blame you there.
I'm just kind of loaded up with subscriptions. So,
yeah.
Especially during football season, we have CBS All Access because of Colts games. Mm-hmm. It's the best way, one of the best ways to watch them. So
gotcha.
Yeah, I just got tons of subscriptions, and so
okay.
Yeah, even though it's really affordable, what is it, $6-7?
I think it's like $5.
Yeah, so totally affordable.
Yeah, I get it though. Because what's the point of actually getting it if you don't have the time to watch it?
Right.
Having said that, you've seen the original Creepshow movie.
I have. I was like a kid. I was like a preteen tween last time I saw it. But I remember it being like some of it being scary, some of it being campy. But for the most part, enjoying it, and I'd like to see it again.
Nice,
definitely.
I think we should definitely do a review, an episode. We'll do something. We'll figure something out.
Okay.
And there's a piece of trivia that I want to drop on you right now, but I kind of also want to hold off until after, like when we actually do the thing. So,
okay.
I don't know if you remember this. Whenever we do get around to covering it, don't look it up. Like, don't look up the first movie. Just don't browse IMDb.
Okay.
Yeah. And don't do that now that I've told you not to do that.
Okay.
So just to keep my ducks in a row, go ahead and look it up on IMDb. But yeah, just such a fun Easter egg there. But I recently watched Creepshow, and it's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was going to be like over the top cheesy and like too much. But it was like the perfect amount of camp cheesiness. And like, I had seen like GIFs and like very short clips of Stephen King in his segment. And I thought like, oh God, that looks like just coked out Stephen King, just hamming it up and everything. But in context of it, like, I thought it was incredible. Like,
it kind of works, yeah.
Really good. Like, I thought the performance was great.
Yeah.
And goofy as all hell, but just something about it clicked. And I think part of that is that he's like the only person in that that segment. But yeah, I really liked Creepshow. I need to go and watch Creepshow 2, but I've heard it's not as good. Okay. But that first one is just, I really liked it.
Nice.
Other check-ins. Do you have any check-ins?
Just that I'm doing my second read-through of Dr. Sleep.
Nice.
And we haven't talked about that yet, but it's kind of in preparation for that, and then in preparation for the movie coming out November 8th, which sucks. I will be in Louis. That'll be my last day. It's supposed to be my last day of training, but I think I'm getting signed up for another week in Louisville right after that, and so I'm just gonna stay down there, and so like opening weekend I'm gonna miss it.
That sucks.
And then the weekend after that I won't have seen my wife for 2 weeks, so it's kind of gonna be like, hey, I'll see you later, I'm gonna go see a movie. She's like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
So yeah, it sucks. I don't know when I'm gonna see it.
Do you think you'd be able to, like, after training's done for a day or whatever, go and check it out?
It's definitely possible, and I might do that. But we'll see.
Yeah. Oh, that's rough.
Yeah. And so what we were planning is I'm down there from Monday to Friday, and Paige was going to come down that Friday, and we were going to get our own hotel for the weekend and have a weekend there. But now
signed up for
a whole next week, and so I don't know when. But if there's a theater nearby, I might like Uber it and one night. And go see it, because I really want to see it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to see it opening weekend, and I'll probably do a Patreon video.
Cool.
What I might do, depending on time, maybe I'll have like an obsessive viewer episode,
Okay.
so that we can get something out quick.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll save Tower Junkies for when you can see it and
Cool.
do it.
Nice.
So on that note, I don't really have, I know I said I had a bunch of check-ins, but I can't really think of any others, that I really had. I listened to Firestarter. I feel like I've said that before. Yeah, I don't know. We'll just breeze past it.
All right.
All right, so we're going to be reviewing In the Tall Grass, the novella first, and then the movie. So yeah, let's just dive right in. So the novella from Stephen King and Joe Hill. I said that like I have information in front of me. Shit. Hang on. I'm gonna actually look this up. I get so annoyed whenever. I mean, granted, this is, I don't know, it's commonplace on the internet, but like whenever anything in pop culture happens, like if there's anything released in pop culture, there's always like entertainment blogs and stuff saying like, oh, the ending of this explained. And
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Clickbait.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, the ending of In the Tall Grass explained, or whatever. It's like,
Did that need explaining?
yeah. Like,
Eh.
I keep thinking, like, every time I see that, it sounds, and this is maybe me projecting onto it, but it just sounds like so condescending.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you're too stupid to actually pay attention when you consume media. Let me explain it for you, you fucking idiot.
Wow.
Anyway, I just saw like the autocomplete for Google was In the Tall Grass explained.
Oh, God.
That's what prompted that. So,
People suck.
Yep. I might keep that in. Oh, fucking God. Huh. I might keep that in. I don't know. But anyway, In the Tall Grass is a horror novella written by Stephen King and his son Joe Hill. It was originally published in 2 parts in the June, July, and August 2012 issues of Esquire magazine. This was their second collaboration since Throttle, which was published in 2009. Did I say what year?
2012.
Yes, I did. Okay.
Yeah.
So then on October 9th of 2012, In the Tall Grass was released separately in a ebook and audiobook format. Audiobook is read by Stephen Lang on Audible. And it was recently collected into Joe Hill's Full Throttle short story collection. Yep. And that was released on October 1st. So just about a week ago. Yes. Plot summary of In the Tall Grass, courtesy of Audible, is Mile 81 meets N in this collaboration between Stephen King and Joe Hill. As USA Today said of Stephen King's Mile 81, Park and Scream, could there be any better place to set a horror story than an abandoned rest stop? In the Tall Grass begins with a sister and brother who pull off to the side of the road after hearing a young boy crying for help from beyond the tall grass. Within minutes, they are disoriented and deeper than seems possible, and they've lost one another. The boy's cries are more and more desperate. What follows is a terrifying, entertaining, and masterfully told tale, as only Stephen King and Joe Hill can deliver. So, Tiny, you read In the Tall Grass before I did, and I know you had some maybe mixed feelings about it. How did you feel about In the Tall Grass?
I thought it was okay, basically. I wasn't super into it. I think it's a cool idea, the whole, people getting lost in tall grass, essentially, pulling off to the side of the road. I think it's a cool idea, and like the lengths that eventually goes to. But for whatever reason, I realize it's a novella, and I think it was like 6 hours long or something like that, the audiobook.
It was an hour and 45 minutes.
Was it?
Yeah. It's like 80 pages long.
Jeez, I thought it was longer than that.
No.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, it felt really quick. That was one of my issues with it. I felt like the story was being rushed along.
Okay.
Really quickly.
Sure.
And it's not like every novella feels that way, because when I listened to Elevation, I didn't feel that. I felt like Stephen King was taking his time. So I don't know if it was maybe the addition of Joe Hill, like the fact that they collaborated on it. Maybe that's part of his style that I didn't connect with, but it just felt rushed, and it felt like I didn't have time to familiarize myself with the characters and the setting and the dynamic of how the story was going to progress. It was just like, okay, here's the character, boom, now we're into this. Like, whoa, hang on, I want to get used to this character still. I'm still trying to figure out who they are, and like, it went a little too fast for me, and I think I absorbed a lot of it. I think I listened to it 6 weeks ago or so it's been a little while. But I don't even remember a lot about it, frankly. Like I wasn't that into it. At the end I was like, that was okay, you know. It was kind of an interesting idea for a story, but I just wasn't that into it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Have you read / have you seen Children of the Corn? Because obviously people compare this with that.
Okay, yeah. I have. I saw the movie.
Okay. I did too.
From like the 80s or whatever. Did it have Mark Hamill in it?
No, it had Linda Hamilton.
Linda Hamilton.
And
I saw it obviously, well over a decade ago. I don't know what movie I'm trying to think of that had Mark Hamill like as a priest.
Star Wars?
No, I don't know. Anyways, I thought it was Children of the Corn, but I've seen that, and again, I think that's I'd like to, you know, maybe revisit that.
You haven't read the short story though? I
have not read the short story, but
I read the short story and I've seen the movie, but it's been a while. I actually started watching it on Hulu like a while ago. But I kind of just turned it off after like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but there are comparisons to be made and everything. The short story is similar to the novella of In the Tall Grass is similar somewhat to Children of the Corn. It's kind of like a mix between Children of the Corn and Mile 81, which was another short story by Stephen King. But the short story, the novella, this was interesting to me because this was actually the first Joe Hill thing that I consumed. Okay. First time I ever like read or listened to anything Joe Hill, and maybe going into it with that knowledge made me more primed to take in the story because it felt like there was more energy to it than what I would be accustomed from a Stephen King short story. Not anything against Stephen King, but like I just felt like there were moments of intense horror that is more like intense than I'm used to from like latter-day Stephen King.
Sure.
Like I was listening to it at work and I'm sitting there doing my work. One of my coworkers is sitting across from me. She got up at some point, did something away from her desk, and then came back. And like, it was at a pivotal point in the novella. And I won't give away what it is because I figure we can talk about that in spoilers. But there was a point toward the end where like things were happening and like I was just sitting there just staring at my screen at my computer at my desk, and I just had my mouth just gaping open. And I was just listening to it like, oh, are they really doing this right now? And then my coworker passed by and I was like, it was one of those things where I was so wrapped up in it that I didn't even care if I looked deranged or like freaked out or looked like weird in any way.
Yeah.
Like my coworker passing by me did not factor into, like, did not faze me at all.
Yeah.
But I just had this dumb look on my face as I'm just staring at the computer screen, listening to the story.
Wow.
So on that front, I was really engaged by it, by the story element of it. It did take a little bit of time to kind of get going for me. I had to kind of start it over because I got distracted. But once I kind of got my bearings on it, I was really invested in it. And once, what I'll say is the concept, like them being lost in the tall grass, in the way that it disorients them is so fascinating to me, and it's something that I was looking forward to in the movie, and spoiler alert, it didn't disappoint me in the movie.
Sweet.
So I really liked this novella, and I forgot to mention this in the check-ins, but it inspired me to start listening to more Joe Hill stuff. So I listened to 20th Century Ghosts, which was his debut short story collection. And kind of the same thing. I was kind of riding the high from In the Tall Grass. And like it felt like there were moments, or like there were certain aspects of certain stories in that collection that just really, really worked for me. And just it felt like a young writer, even though he was 33 when that book was published, I believe. Mm-hmm. But a young writer, kind of not trying to prove himself, but it was like clear he had something to say.
Yeah,
and like it was just a fresh new voice for it. But then, and I also listened to 20th Century Ghosts, which I thought was pretty okay.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So any other thoughts on the novella? How'd you feel about Stephen Lang's narration?
I thought he was pretty good. I wanted it to be longer just to continue to hear his voice.
Yeah.
I thought it made me realize, I know I've seen him in other performances, but obviously like my go-to performance for Stephen Lang is Avatar. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize like how much he was like acting up and changing his voice for that movie.
Oh, yeah.
He's got like the very gruff, like military voice in that movie. And I found his voice a lot more like soothing.
Surprisingly so.
Yeah. And like, comforting, kind of like I don't know, a wise man's voice, I guess. I don't know. Almost like Tommy Lee Jones or something like that.
I can see that.
But yeah, he just had, I appreciated his voice. But I really should have listened to it again before this recording, because I did not retain enough of the novella. Yeah, I didn't.
Well, to be fair, there really isn't a lot to retain from it. But did you, kind of sidetracked, did you see the movie Don't Breathe?
I don't think so.
Came out a couple of years ago. Horror suspense.
He's like a blind guy.
Blind guy, yeah.
I don't think I ever did. I see that? I can't remember.
It's good.
Yeah, I think
it's solid. It's very solid, I would say.
Okay.
But his performance is the standout. It's really good.
Nice.
So anything else about the novella, or should we move on to the movie?
We can go to the movie as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So the novella In the Tall Grass was adapted into a feature film on Netflix, directed and written by Vincenzo Natali. And let me bring it up on IMDb, and we'll do that. While I do that, here's a clip from the trailer.
Did you hear that? Someone out there?
Okay, so In the Tall Grass stars Laisla de Oliveira as Becky, Avery Whitted as Cal, Patrick Wilson as Ross Humboldt, Will Bowie Jr. as Tobin, and there are some other people as well. As I said, written and directed by Vincenzo Natali. This is a guy who I was very interested in seeing him tackle a Stephen King adaptation. I've only really seen his work. I think he did one episode of season 1 of Westworld, but he also did some episodes of Hannibal, 6 episodes in total, which just had a very distinct visual flair to it.
Cool.
But he also did Splice, Cypher in 2002, the movie Cube from 1997, which I've heard really great things about.
That is a good movie.
Yep. And then, one episode of Lost in Space on Netflix. So, keeping it in the Netflix family.
Sweet.
So, yeah, plot summary, courtesy of IMDb, is after hearing a young boy's cry for help, a sister and brother venture into a vast field of tall grass in Kansas, but soon discover there may be no way out, and that something evil lurks within. So Tiny, how did you feel about In the Tall Grass, the movie, in non-spoilers?
I liked it better. I retained a lot more from the movie than I did the book. I think the standout for me was Vincenzo Natali as a director. Nice. Visually, it was very effective. I feel like the set of the grass and the way that all the details and the minutia of that the field of grass was just really encapsulating, and like the color palette just worked. You know, it wasn't just a sea of green. Like there was a lot of texture to the visuals of that being lost, because that's 90% of the movie. Yeah, you know, it's gotta work,
right? And that opening shot that's just a sky, like a overhead shot of the grass, just slowly zooming in as the music builds. That was like very, very good, like tone establishment. Definitely, I loved that. But the word that just kept popping into my head as I saw the grass was just the word texture. Like, I feel like I could feel what that grass feels like, you know what I'm saying? And he just captured that really well, like showing their feet sinking into the soft ground and stuff like that, and focusing in on the wind and like the sound of the blades of grass rubbing together. It just he just hit all the texture notes, I think, and it just like I could feel it as well as hear it and see it and stuff like that. He just kind of nailed that, him and his team, and it all looked really good. It wasn't just the grass, but like the rock that's featured, or the stone, or whatever you want to call it, that's featured, had a lot of good detail to it, and it was a pretty unique feature of the movie, I think. But again, the issue cropped up that it's super quick, and like you just jump right into it, and it's like you don't. Up. Yeah, that was unintentional. Nice, unintentional pun. But like you're just right there, and boom, you're right in the thick of it, and it's like there's just not enough time to get invested in the characters. So it's harder to care. But I think the characters actually had a little bit more depth in the movie than in the book for me. Again, it's hard to remember the book, but or the novella. But you know, I think it's cool. Like I'd be fine recommending it to anybody to watch. Yeah, I liked it. Patrick Wilson is just so. He's just so Patrick Wilson. Oh yeah? Like he's sometimes like he's fine. Like I've never been like, man, I can't wait to see Patrick Wilson in this movie. I don't like him or I think maybe I like him a little bit better when he's playing a bad guy. The only time I've really loved Patrick Wilson is Hard Candy. Oh yeah. I think he was great in that movie, but like Watchmen and that weird movie with Jackie Earle Haley. I don't remember what that was called, where Jackie Earle Haley got nominated for an Oscar. Oh. That was a weird movie. Was it Little Children? Yes. Okay. I think that's it. Because Patrick Wilson was in that. Patrick Wilson's I thought that was weird that he was in that and Hard Candy. Yeah. Definitely. So yeah, I feel like he's just, I don't know. He's fine. Interesting. He's just fine. I don't love him or hate him. I don't get excited for him or loathe that he's in a movie. Like, it's just, he's just very vanilla to me. That's really interesting, because I'm a reasonably big fan of his. Really? Yeah. Oh, he was also in Bone Tomahawk. Was he? Yeah. Was he? Well, because I know that Matt Fox is in that movie too. Yes. And I feel like they're brothers. Interchangeable. Yeah. No, he was the guy, like the husband. Yeah. He was the one that was not like equipped for the trip or whatever. No, I remember him. He had some kind of like leg injury too. That's right. But yeah, I something about him. I think he has a certain charisma to him that I like seeing him in things. Really? Okay. Of course, he's in the Conjuring movies, which I've seen like 2 of them. Yeah, that's the other. I'm not big on the Conjuring. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, he was also in a movie. I think I wrote a review of this back in like 2014, like a direct to digital movie called Stretch. where I'm just going to go ahead and read the plot summary. A hard luck limo driver struggles to go straight and pay off a debt to his bookie. He takes on a job with a crazed passenger whose sought-after ledger implicates some seriously dangerous criminals. It's actually a lot of fun, and there's a ton of people in this movie that's really good. So I recommend checking out Stretch. It's directed by Joe Carnahan, who did Narc and Smokin' Aces.
Wasn't he also in one of the seasons of Fargo?
He was. I think he was in season 2 of Fargo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which I haven't seen, but...
Yeah.
I don't have bad things to say about him. That's the thing.
Right.
Like, he's not a bad actor by any stretch.
Bland.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not bad, but... Yeah, I don't know, something about him I like, and I really liked his, to bring it back to our actual review, I thought he was phenomenal in this, honestly.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, I thought he was good, too. Like, I actually, I didn't get there, but yeah, I actually kind of liked him in this.
Oh, nice.
Like I said, I think I like him a little bit better when he's playing a bad guy. Mm-hmm. 'Cause he's too vanilla, like, next door neighbor dad type when he's playing a good guy. But like in this, it worked, and I think he was like pretty imposing. Mm-hmm. I actually, I appreciated his performance in this.
Yeah, I really liked his from the jump, like his first scene where he meets Becky in the tall grass, and he like has this kind of exasperated, like breathy, kind of like out of breath, kind of. Like energy to him, and he's like telling her like, yeah, I can get you out of here, we can find Cal and everything. It's like he's very assertive, but there's this kind of hint of just something like an instability within him that it's played really well, and it kind of makes for a compelling introduction to his character because you don't know what the fuck's going on. But yeah, I thought he did a really good job. I would say he was probably the standout actor.
Definitely for me, yeah.
Yeah.
I also forgot that he could sing.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think one of his early famous roles was Phantom of the Opera.
That's right.
With Gerard Butler and Emmy Rossum.
Yep.
He was I'm not super familiar with Phantom of the Opera, but he was the, like, good guy.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. But he has a really great singing voice.
Nice.
Which he used in this movie. Yeah, he was. I thought he did a pretty good job.
Yeah. Were you able to discern any, and maybe this is something for later in the episode, but were you able to discern any of the changes from the book?
No, I really wasn't.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll save that for spoilers.
Okay.
But what I'll say is that I had a tough time kind of getting into this movie at first.
Okay.
In fact, I started watching it like that Friday night when it was released. Started watching it that night, and I was like, legitimately, like all day at work, I was like, I'm really excited for this. I'm excited to go home and like just watch this movie, and I was really excited to check it out because I enjoyed the novella, and it's a Stephen King adaptation, so I was like, it's in my wheelhouse. But for some reason, I think I had other stuff going on, but I was also like, it was like midnight, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, I should probably watch In the Tall Grass.
Yeah.
So I'm laying on the couch, I'm watching In the Tall Grass, and I, like, in preparation for it, I had re-listened to the novella at work. Because like I said, it's only an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Breeze through it. So I'm like watching it, and I'm noticing, like, I mean, granted, an adaptation of a novella isn't going to go page for page or anything. Like, it's obviously going to be expanded, and that's the nature of adaptations. They're adapted. But it reaches a point where technically in the novella, like, the novella ends. At a point in the movie, and I was like, oh, well, this is interesting. They introduce like another character, and they really, like, they expand upon that. Mm-hmm. But then I stopped, and I was like, oh, this has to be almost over, and I'm like, this is 17 minutes in. I'm like barely, like, it's an hour and 40-minute movie.
Right. And
I'm sitting there, and I'm like, 17 minutes? Like, it feels like I've been watching this forever.
Yeah.
And I was laying here, and then I was like, I actually, okay, I'll go ahead and say it. I did that. I watched another 5-10 minutes of it, and then I stopped it, and I took my glasses off and I just took a nap. And like I was resting my eyes and it was like, I think I slept for maybe half hour or so. And then I got up and I was like, I started to play it again. I was like, no, I'm going to call it. I'm just going to go to bed.
Yeah.
So I went to bed and then the next day, like I kind of mentally prepared myself, got some coffee, and then I was going to resume it, but I'm just going to start over because I'm only like 20 minutes into this fucking movie.
Right.
But before I get into my actual thoughts on the finished product and everything, let me kind of circle back and talk more about my feelings about it in that moment. Because like I said, it adapts a majority of the events in the novella into about 17 minutes and change of the movie. The first 17 minutes and change.
Wow.
Yeah, just about. Like, there are some things that come up later and everything, but but for the most part, a majority of the novella is contained in the 17 minutes. And I didn't have a problem with that particular thing in general. But, my neighbors. What I struggled with was that, like, I made this kind of snarky anecdote that, like, it's funny that I'm sitting there watching a movie in which people are completely lost without a sense of direction or time, and I literally felt like I just watched 2 hours of a movie I spent 17 minutes with. Like, it felt like long. And when I say that, it's not like they did the story justice in those 17 minutes, because like you said, I didn't really get a grip on who Cal and Becky were in that opening scene. I think that that's one of the big failings of the movie in the end, is that there are somewhat throwaway lines about how, like, okay, well, let's go back and maybe mom and dad are right. And like that just establishes that they're not a couple, that they're brother and sister. And it's like, there's not really that much information. Like, I feel like there could have been so much more. Like, they could have I would have been okay with even just an exposition dump of dialogue between the two as they drove up. Like that, and I probably would be complaining about that if we'd gotten that, but it's better than this because there was like nothing. Yeah. So I called it a night, and then the next day I watched it, and I've got to say I really got more into it that second time. And I actually ended up really enjoying it for some reasons that we'll talk about soon, but I really enjoyed the movie. I agree with you. The direction and the cinematography and just the camera movement was amazing. There are some shots that feel like it reminds me of some of the more grotesque and unsettling parts that I saw of like Hannibal when I watched the show. Okay. Like just these ethereal kind of moments. Like there's like Becky kind of faints, and we're brought into like her like this like weird like otherworld like thing where she's like, it's like blood everywhere, and just like it's like she is in like embryonic fluid. It's like she's like, her fainting is putting her in like a womb type environment. Visually, it's just it's phenomenal. It's incredible. Yeah. And in fact, it kind of makes me want him to do something in the Dark Tower universe. Oh yeah. I think that would be pretty cool. But yeah, those things were cool. I thought the concept, like there's some, probably the best thing about this movie for me, as an adaptation of a novella that I really enjoyed, and as just a movie in general, is that it really expands upon the actual like tall grass. Like, there are things included into the mythology of the tall grass that just make it all the more interesting and petrifying to me. How did you feel about the kind of the threat of the tall grass itself and the way it was depicted?
It was pretty scary, and like I said, I think it translated better in the movie because, you know, there's this sense of desperation because there's no food, there's no water, and you don't even know how long you've been in there. Yeah. And so it's just 100% disorienting, and it just feels like there's no solution, and it's like you're completely isolated. It's almost like being on a desert island where you can just walk and not see the same thing twice or something. Like it's this giant open field, but it's like you're completely isolated. And that's difficult to achieve. But they did that really well in the movie. And I think the performances were fine. Like I was not familiar with the three kind of main characters. There's like 5 main characters really, but everybody besides Patrick Wilson I wasn't familiar with, but they all did pretty okay. Like I don't have an issue with them, but I think their disorientation was acted out pretty well.
I agree.
And like that's one of the things that I found so unnerving about it, was just the fact that, well, I'm just going to sit here and slowly starve and die of thirst, and but then they run into each other, or they come together, and like this person, I don't know. It's like the timing is so weird. The time, everyone's experiencing different timelines, and some people have been in there for what feels like a few days, but this person left a month ago or whatever, and it's like that just makes it even more confusing and disorienting, and just I would be completely hopeless. I would just be like, well, I'm just gonna sit down and die. Yeah,
and that element of it, the kind of weird time dilation, the timelines and everything, and I'm so glad you made the comparison of being on a deserted island, because I got such a like late season Lost vibe.
Oh yeah, definitely
off of this, and I was all about that.
Yeah.
The idea, like there are some ideas that are presented in this and that are achieved visually that I just thought was really a very smart decision. Like the idea of them being like them entering into the tall grass is kind of like entering into this weird like outside of time realm that is like characters are like saying like, oh wait, you don't remember me because you like the way that the timelines kind of fold onto each other. Like characters go into the tall grass because characters that they haven't met yet and haven't entered into the tall grass have lured them into the tall grass.
Right.
It's so trippy and well executed, in my opinion.
But you can follow it. You're able to follow it somehow.
Oh yeah. And I thought that was such a, because that's not in the novella.
Right.
And I thought that was such a clever idea and so interesting.
Yeah.
And you get into weird time lapses. It's almost like a time travel movie without actual like being like a time travel device.
Right.
But you get into like things where like, okay, well, I saw this thing that hasn't happened yet because this person hasn't become a deranged psychopath yet. And it's so fun and just really, really intense for me. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. But the introduction of he's introduced like 20 minutes into the movie, so it's okay. The introduction of Travis as a character.
Yeah.
He's not present in the novella.
Right.
And I had a weird like struggle with that, because like he's the boyfriend of Becky, and he is basically going after them to find them because they've been lost. And then he gets into the grass, and then hilarity ensues.
Yeah.
But I had some issues with it at first because I was like, dude, like the hour and 45 minutes I spend with the audiobook of the novella is quick and brisk and entertaining for me. And I was like, dude, you really need to expand it by having this character that's not in the novella, like have him have a whole arc when you haven't even really properly established the brother and sister dynamic. At this point, I just felt like it was a little too much for me.
Yeah.
But when I restarted it the next day and I was watching it, I kind of divorced myself from the novella, and I kind of really thought his arc was interesting, to say the least.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really brought it around.
Mm-hmm.
And he reminded me so much of like a poor man's Sebastian Stan.
Oh yeah. Oh wow.
Like really a lot.
Huh. Wow. I did not make that connection, but
Yeah.
I totally, like, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not even looking at, like, his picture or anything. It's like I just memory, it's like that kind of blew my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I thought, like, he has the three of them, the brother and sister and him, they have a very interesting and unique arc, the three of them. And I liked the drama that came about from that, and I really liked how much it pushed it. Kind of in the second half of the movie, like there are some things that in the novella are kind of not unsaid but aren't touched on, but like the movie kind of really pushes it in regards to this kind of protective kind of relationship that Cal has with his sister, and like they kind of push it a little bit, and I was kind of all for it because it's kind of like it's a unique piece of character development and drama that comes out of that.
I agree.
Yeah. So we should probably dive into spoilers.
Yeah.
So before we do that, overall thoughts. I saw on Letterboxd that you rated this. Do you want to share what you rated it? Or
I don't even remember. I rated 2.5, I think.
2.5. Yep.
Yeah.
2.5 stars.
Yeah.
Is it going to make your top 10?
No.
Yeah. Probably won't make mine. I did give it a rating on Letterboxd of 3 stars and a heart. I really enjoyed it. There were some things that didn't work, which I'll talk about in spoilers in more depth. But overall, I actually thought it was a very solid Stephen King adaptation.
Sweet.
Okay, we're going to go into spoilers now. So here's another clip from the trailer, or maybe some music, I don't know. But here that is, and then when we get back, we're going to go into spoilers for In the Tall Grass.
My boy, he's lost in here too.
This is nuts!
It's only a field.
He went the other way!
I'm never gonna find her.
You can find things, but it's easier once they're dead.
So Tiny.
Yeesh.
I want to start off by talking about the bowling alley. When they get to the roof, as they're being chased by Ross, they get to the roof. Like, that's the one moment where I was like, they ran out of money. Because it looked bad. Like, it looked like I was watching it, like the green screen effect and everything of it.
Yeah.
Like I was, and maybe because it was a roof and everything, I just kept thinking of The Room. Like it wasn't that bad, but
Yeah.
like the movie The Room, the Tommy Wiseau movie.
Yeah.
But like it wasn't much better.
Right.
Just visually, it just like color was off, and it looked like a green screen.
It did.
It kind of looked terrible.
Yeah. They got away with it because it was also at night.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't as stark, as blatant. But yeah, it definitely felt like a green screen. You weren't sitting there thinking like, oh, where'd they film this? Like,
Right.
They filmed it on a fucking backlot somewhere.
Oh, yeah. And, yeah, I did like the inclusion of the bowling alley, and that was a good, like, kind of, gave a nice, like, respite to the tension a little bit. And that's also where we're given a lot of character development between Travis and Cal and Becky. How did you feel about the kind of allegations of, like I was like, oh, shit, like, when Travis was like, well, you've got this whole husband complex over your sister, and
Yeah.
it's probably the next best thing of fucking her or something like that.
Right.
How'd you feel about that?
I liked it because it actually gave a lot more depth to all the characters.
Yeah.
And it was kind of an aspect of the movie that I thought was a lot more prevalent than in the book. Like, I think I can't say definitively that Cal did have those feelings for his sister, but like, I feel like he was kind of going a little too far, maybe, or like maybe he did have some kind of, like, why was he going to such extreme lengths to help his sister? And I don't know, like it just seemed a little
too overprotective.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I can't definitively say that it was this or that, but it was a fun part of it was a fun accusation to explore, or like kind of it was like, oh shit, he just said that, like,
yeah.
Damn. It was fun. It was a good conflict.
I agree.
It was a good conflict. Yeah.
And he said it in front of a child, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, he's about to die, so.
Yeah, well. So, in the actual bowling alley, when they get to the roof and everything, they did this. I felt this was a bit of a contrivance, and I felt like it could have been handled a lot better. But the whole thing of. I'm laughing when I say this, but Travis, like, losing his grip on the railing or whatever, the sign.
Yeah.
And then Cal not pushing him, but not helping him to fall to what could have been, what by Cal's estimation, his death.
Right.
I felt like that was just in theory, I like it as an idea, but it just wasn't executed properly. Like, it felt just so ham-fisted for me.
Yeah, it's like, what did you think that was gonna kill him? It's like 20. Yeah, it's like not even 20 feet. Dude.
Exactly. It's 20 feet. Also, what are you gonna tell your sister?
Right.
And then it was just, and then like after that, he Becky's like, "Where's Travis?" And he's like, "Oh, he's behind us." And it's like, it's
how dumb is she?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he thinks she's a moron, and she actually is, because she's like going along with this right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, yeah, he's probably going to break his leg or, like, you know, get knocked unconscious, but he's probably not going to die, dude.
Right.
You're kind of seeing a flaw in your plan there, buddy. Yeah, that was silly.
It was pretty dumb. And I did like how there was a bit of hope with that when they see the dog and everything.
Right.
Although, and this is where it gets kind of muddled for me, it's like they saw that the dog was dead at another time in the timeline, but I guess that tracks because it's kind of like different timelines running concurrently, because this is where it got kind of confusing in the end, because the kid, Tobin, is talking about how, like, oh, my dad's just going to kill us over and over and over again. And it's like, I feel like it visually didn't communicate that. It didn't communicate that they're in a time loop.
Yeah.
For me, it just felt like they were just experiencing time at a different, like, perspective.
Right. Everybody dies once, but you're experiencing different parts of the end of your life at different moments. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Although there was that really creepy scene where I think Cal gets tackled by Patrick Wilson, and he looks over and sees his body. And then he sees, like, several versions of his body.
That's what that was.
Yeah, I thought that was like super well done. It was creepy as shit.
Honestly, I did not pick up on that being different versions of Cal's body. I thought that was just dead people.
No, I'm pretty sure
that makes it more okay. That is the visual communication that I missed of it being an endless loop. I'll have to revisit that because that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
What did you think of the Black Rock?
Yeah, the rock was. Yeah, it was creepy. Like I said, it was a good set, like in the clearing with the cloudy moonlit sky up above was just a really cool set. I liked that, the way it was visually represented. Yeah, not much else to say about it, really. In the book, there weren't, like, carvings on it, were there?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember either. I almost would have preferred it to just be a blank rock.
Yeah, me too.
Without carvings on it. And the whole, like tribe that seemed to come out of the grass and do whatever. I don't know if that was a hallucination or if that was a real thing. I thought that was, it was visually effective. It was, it was scary, especially where they kind of pick up Becky and, like, carry her off into the grass. That was, like, particularly scary and well done, but it just seemed a little like, okay, is this real? Is this a hallucination? I don't know what's going on. Are those people an extension of the rock? What's do they just chill in the grass? Like, I don't know what's going on.
I got that feeling too. Like, I got that confusion as well.
I didn't even dislike it. It was just a little confusing.
I wish it would have been more clear or just omitted entirely. Like, I didn't, as visually appealing as that was, I didn't need it when we have like Patrick Wilson going crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like that is enough of a threat. That and the disorientation are enough of a threat that...
Totally.
Yeah. But one of the... And I probably should have rewatched the movie also, but one of the things from the novella that I was... I'm going to go ahead and spoil the novella.
Yeah, go nuts.
So fair warning to everyone listening. If you haven't read or listened to the novella, stop listening and go check it out. But the part in Countdown 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, spoilers on for the novella, as well as the movie. So the part in the novella that had my mouth just gaping open like an idiot at work was when Becky is disoriented. She's kind of fading in and out of consciousness. And then Cal comes up and she wakes up and sees Cal and Tobin, after Cal has touched the rock. And like there's one line that just sticks out to me that says that, she's disoriented because she just gave birth. And she says that, like the narration is that like she saw Cal holding a doll's leg or something, and it was confusing. And then she blinks out and then comes back, and then he's like, "Here, eat this. You need to eat." And then she's like, "It tastes salty and just it was delicious, but all that." And then like you slowly realize like they just fucking ate her baby.
Yeah,
like they just ate her newborn baby.
Right.
And like I was gobsmacked by that. I was like, "Holy fuck, that is intense and that's insane. That's on another level."
Yeah.
And I feel like the novella kind of maybe doesn't walk it back, but it leaves on a bit of ambiguity that it's like it's confusing.
Yeah.
It's like she is realizing that that's possible, but she's also disoriented. So, and like Cal says, like, "No, we didn't eat the baby. We ate grass and everything."
Right.
But my headcanon is that they ate the fucking baby.
Yeah, definitely.
And so they do something like that in the movie. Mm-hmm. It's just as disorienting and everything, but the actual ending of the movie felt too safe, too happy. Like,
yeah.
I would have rather have had the bleak ass ending of the novella rather than this kind of happy, like, "Oh, I'm going to sacrifice myself for the grass so that my child and my girlfriend and her weird possessive brother can live happily ever after." Like, it just felt too clean.
Yeah.
But I love that about the novella, and I'm glad that they at least touched on it in the movie. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on that? And if not, how did you feel about Patrick Wilson's kind of transformation into a monster?
Not really any feelings on that, but yeah, but okay. Like Patrick Wilson, that was kind of the beauty of his performance, was the transition. He seems very, kind of normal, run of the mill, kind of straight guy, just everyman kind of guy. And then it's kind of slowly peeled back how crazy he is. And then he goes full ham on the craziness.
Right.
But he did a good job in this movie, and that was one of the better parts of it. Kind of that slow burn where he transitioned into just being full zealot for the Rock or whatever. That was well done. And I think like you said, he was the standout. I thought the Travis guy was a little hammy.
Yeah, he was a little bit, yeah.
Of the rest of the cast, I think Becky was the best. I forget her name.
I think so too. Yeah, her name's really hard to pronounce.
Complicated name, yeah.
Don't make me.
She was fine. I didn't have anything against her, but everyone else was just a little hammy.
Yeah. Laisla de Oliveira.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she did a really good job.
Yeah.
I don't know what else. Have we talked it out? Do we have anything?
I think I'm pretty much done with it for myself.
Is it something that you foresee ever like revisiting?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Okay. In regards to recent Stephen King Netflix stuff. How does this compare to you with, say, 1922 or Gerald's Game?
Of the three, this is in third place.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I think Gerald's Game is probably the best of the three. Followed, I liked 1922 a little better than you did, I think.
Yeah. I think, because I don't remember hardly anything
Really?
about it. Yeah. And I just quote unquote upgraded my Full Dark No Stars collection because I had the hardback for the longest time, but I kind of want a more uniform collection, so I got the paperback. I'm just going to give the hardback to my mom.
Gotcha.
Unless you want to. Do you want to take a book from my mom?
I'm good. No,
Okay, cool.
Let Sandy have it.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'll read it eventually, but yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I don't remember anything per se about the movie, so that's third for me. But I would say that Gerald's Game is probably better than this, but a respectable number 2 for In the Tall Grass of those three.
Gotcha. I loved Natali. I think he was he was the standout as well as Patrick Wilson. Like I wasn't especially familiar with his work, but this was he's good. I think he's got some chops.
Just some of the visuals and there are like transition scenes where the camera like zooms in on like a blade of grass with like a dewdrop.
Yeah.
And like as the dewdrop is like descending down the blade of grass, like the camera's spinning around and it meets with another drop of dew. It's just like visually it looks incredible.
Yeah, very detailed.
Yeah. And also just the way that the visually is communicated, the disorientation of the field of the grass, like things like I think Travis, like in one continuous shot, Travis walking and then looking up at the sky, and then walking and then looking back up, and the sun is in a completely different area of the sky. Just like little things like that are just say so much about the disorientation of the characters.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yep. So yeah, I guess that'll do it for this review of In the Tall Grass. Are you going to pick up Full Throttle from Joe Hill?
I don't know.
Have you read any Joe Hill?
I don't remember.
I want to say that you read Horns.
I think I read Horns. I don't remember it. And I think I even remember... I read it.
Okay.
But I just don't remember it that well.
Okay.
But I do remember thinking it was a pretty solid book, and I actually liked it, kind of. And then there was the Daniel Radcliffe movie.
Yeah.
That was a little goofy. But yeah, I don't know. I'm hesitant to get into the work of another author, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know why. That's
I'll
not really fair, but... What's that?
I'll assign it to you.
Okay.
No, I was hesitant to get into his stuff because like I always had this idea in my head that like, okay, I'll read all of Stephen King's stuff. When I have no other Stephen King stuff to read, I'll go on to Joe Hill. Kind of blew my wad on that. But I will say, as I said before, 20th Century Ghost has a lot of good stuff in it. It's a very eclectic mix of short stories.
Okay.
Ranging from outright scary, like kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Like a very intense scary. There's body horror scary. Like there's a whole story. A guy wakes up and he's turned into a human-sized cockroach. Oh. And the description, like it's so descriptive. It's gross. Nice. There are other stories like very also like charming stories, like a story about like a 10-year-old who becomes best friends with a classmate who is literally to both him and to everyone else in the world, he is I don't even know how, like he's like not a doll, but like he's a life-size like plush doll. And like that, like it's just normal.
Weird.
It's so weird, but it's endearing and everything. It's a really good collection.
Yeah.
And then Heart-Shaped Box is solid. A lot of people love it, and I won't disparage them at all. I will say the main character's name is one of the coolest names. He's a former rock star. His name is Judas Coin.
That's cool, yeah.
And I'm just like, that's a cool fucking name.
Totally.
But there's some good stuff in Heart-Shaped Box, but I'll probably read more Joe Hill and everything. I'm very curious about the Fireman.
Okay.
Do you know anything about that?
No.
It's from what I understand, it's about a worldwide epidemic where either people or structures or both just spontaneously combust into flames. It's like a spread of a disease where just, people just burn up.
Wow.
So I'm very intrigued by that. So next time on the podcast, I think we're going to do The Institute.
Yep.
And then The Shining, Dr. Sleep, and then more stuff to come. Having said that, is there anything else that we need to cover?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode of Tower Junkies. Thank you guys so much for listening and everything. If you want to hear more content from us, check out our other shows, Obsessive Viewer and Anthology. Obsessive Viewer, we are about to start covering Heartland Film Festival, which is a great international independent film festival here in Indianapolis. I'm hoping to have a lot of content over on Obsessive Viewer about that, both written and audio, and stuff on the Patreon. So, if you guys are into that, check that out, because I'm really proud of the work that we do around Heartland. And then also, it's giving, a spotlight to filmmakers and projects that aren't mainstream, and there's a chance that no one will ever be able to see these movies outside of the festival circuit. So it's great to just hear about passionate people talking about their passions. And then also finally check out Patreon if you want to support us. Patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. $1 gets you access to an RSS feed that has content recorded specifically for Patreon, and $5 and above gets you access to both the RSS feed and videos that we record after we see movies. It's entertaining, it's fun. Hope you guys do that and support us as well. Also, on that note, I did change the Patreon thing slightly. So, it used to be that people could just pledge their dollar amount and then they would be charged at the beginning of the month. New patrons would do that. And then now that we've got more content out there, someone could have just gone and been like, oh, I'll pledge $5 and then get access to the RSS feed and everything. And then they wouldn't charge until the beginning of the month, which I want people to check it out and everything. But I made that change where now they'll be charged immediately. So if you do join Patreon, I do recommend doing that kind of at the beginning of the month. Otherwise, you'll be charged again at the beginning of the month. But anyway, there's a lot of content there. We're really proud of it, and we think you guys will enjoy it. Okay, so that'll do it for this episode of Tower Junkies. Thank you guys so much for listening, and long days and pleasant nights.
And may you have twice the number.
And now, here's a short clip from our Patreon exclusive RSS feed. To hear the full clip and more exclusive Patreon content, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and become a patron at the minimum rate of $1 per month. Thank you and enjoy. Here on the casting couch, I have Tiny.
Casting couch.
Tiny, yeah. So you've got a 4-day weekend coming up.
Yeah, I'm 32 years old.
Nice. Wait, what?
Because casting couch.
Oh, yes.
32.
Yes. Are you sure you didn't just turn 18?
I should say I'm 21, or 18, even though I'm 32. Porn.
Yes.
Tower Junkies is edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. For a full archive of our episodes, go to TowerJunkiesPod.com/archive. You can also like our Facebook page at Facebook.com/TowerJunkiesPod and follow us on Twitter at TowerJunkiesPod. If you enjoy the show, please take a couple minutes to leave us a rating and a quick review on Apple Podcasts. This is the easiest way to support what we do, and all it costs is just a little bit of your time. If you'd like to donate to the podcast, you can make a PayPal donation at TowerJunkiesPod.com/donate or support us on Patreon for recurring donations and access to commentary tracks and B-roll audio recorded exclusively for patrons at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Every donation goes toward paying the fees to keep the podcast running and is greatly appreciated. For official Obsessive Viewer merch, including shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more, visit our TeePublic store. You can find a link to the store in the show notes of this episode and at obsessiveviewer.com/donate. Or you can simply search for Obsessive Viewer at teepublic.com. For information about our annual live event showcasing short horror films from local filmmakers, check out shocktoberinirvington.com. And for an archive of all our events, as well as news about potential future events, head over to obsessiveviewer.com/live. For more podcast content, you can find our flagship movie and TV review and discussion show, The Obsessive Viewer Podcast, at obsessiveviewer.com and on Twitter at obsessiveviewer. You can also find Anthology, Matt's solo podcast covering The Twilight Zone, and other classic and contemporary science fiction anthology TV shows at anthologypod.com and OV Anthology Pod on Twitter. And finally, check out The Secular Perspective, Tiny's side project podcast, which tackles current events and life's big questions from the perspective of secular hosts Chad and Amanda at thesecularperspective.com. Music for the podcast is provided with permission from Fingers T on YouTube. Additional bumper music is provided courtesy of As Good As It Gets, which can be found at facebook.com/asgoodasitgetsband. Thank you so much for listening. Long days and pleasant nights.
Kitty!